Bows, TKOs, yeah. Bows, TKOs, we got Bows, TKOs, yeah. Bows, TKOs, we got Bows, TKOs, yeah. Bows, TKOs.
Bows and TKOs. We are live, episode 79, coming at you on this beautiful Wednesday afternoon in the Valley. It's like 80 degrees here, pretty wild stuff for almost Christmas time. But I'm your host, Shane Gillette, for another weekly MMA podcast, streaming anywhere you listen to podcasts and videos on YouTube. Short and sweet episode here before the Christmas holiday, as we will chat a little bit about Fury and Oleksandr Usyk, some fights that have been announced. I will recap how I predicted champions last year and what my predictions are for the champions going into next year. And we will recap UFC Fight Night Tampa Bay. So let's jump right in as your boy is getting ready to head to Montana. Excited for the major Steelers-Ravens showdown on Saturday for the division. Your boy's been hyped up with Hard Knocks. Got settled down a little bit with the Eagles' loss, but George Pickens being out. I'm just super excited for football. The Steelers win on Saturday. They lock up a division home game in the wild card, and I will be booking me a trip to Pittsburgh as soon as possible. But some fights that have been announced. We have Jared Gordon and Cowie Fernandez, February 15th. On February 8th, we have Tom Nolan and Vyacheslav Borshev, as well as Jack Jenkins and Gabriel Santos. Then on February 1st, the Saudi Arabia card, the main event, Israel Adesanya and Nasruddin Imavov in one hell of a scrap, as well as Shara Magomedov and MVP. So Saudi Arabia getting some really interesting fights with Michael Venom Page, Israel Adesanya. And then somewhat of an intriguing move here. We have Waldo Cortez Acosta taking on Ryan Spann as he moves up to the heavyweight division March 15th. And I'm sure coming into the new year, the UFC brass will get a lot of fights announced and some pay-per-views now that we know the Q1 schedule. So last year I had said my champions, and let's see how he did. I said in the flyweight division it would still be Oleksandr Pantoja. I thought he would fight one more this year after he had won, and that was the case. But it wasn't against the winner of Moreno and Albazi. It was Kai Asakura. And actually, I think he fought twice, right? Because he also beat Steve Usyk. But we do go 1-0 in the flyweight division. I thought in the bantamweight division it would still be Sean O'Malley defeating Cheeto and Merab. He did defeat Cheeto, but not Merab. So 1-1 there. Going into featherweight, I thought it would be Alexander Volkanovski winning a trio of fights against Ilya, Arnold Allen, and Brian Ortega, but Ilya got the job done and defended the title. So 1-2. At lightweight, I said Islam Makhachev probably fight one more time, the winner of Charles and Arman. Still scheduled to fight Arman, but it is Islam, so we're 2-2. At welterweight, I stuck with Leon Edwards. I thought he would fight Bilal, then Shavkat, but he lost to Bilal, so I'm 2-3. In middleweight, I had Israel Adesanya defeating DDP. After beating Strickland, I was way off there, so we're 2-4. At light heavyweight, I had Alex Pereira, which is funny. I said he'll beat Jamal Hill. I did think he would fight Ankalaev, and I said maybe a surprise 300 fight, which he did fight 3 times and did have that 300 fight. So 3-4. At heavyweight, I had Tom Aspinall, which technically is true, so I'm going to give me a benefit of the doubt there. Although John Jones is the technical champ, I guess Tom Aspinall never did get dethroned. So was right in flyweight, wrong in bantamweight, wrong in featherweight, right at lightweight, wrong at welterweight, right at light heavy, right at heavy. So 4-3 in the men's. In the women's, I said Zhang Weilei. I was right there. So added up 5-3, baby. I said she would beat Yan Xiaonan and Tatiana Suarez. She never did get a fight Tatiana, but that will be coming. And then in flyweight, I had Alexa Grasso beating Manon Fiorot and Valentina Shevchenko, but Valentina stealing that, so 5-4. And then at bantamweight, I had Juliana Pena saying she would beat Raquel Pennington and Ketlin Vieira. I didn't think the injury would postpone things, but I got that right. So 6-4, right? So I got bantamweight wrong, featherweight wrong, welterweight wrong, and the women's. Oh, well, yeah. So 6-4, not bad. This year, I am thinking it will be still Alexandre Pantoja in the flyweight division. I have not quite mapped out who I think they would fight this year, how many fights, especially in the flyweight division. It's like, who does he even fight next? My call was that he should fight Kai Kara France. Kai posted today, doesn't seem like he really wants that. He kind of wants someone else to go up there and fight Pantoja. I have no idea what the case is going to be, as there's not a lot of options. So I'd say Pantoja fights twice this year. No idea who that would be. Maybe I will make a social media post at Bowsandtkos, Instagram, Twitter, and we'll say who I think the title or who the division should fight for unbooked fights, just for fun. At bantamweight, I am going to go with Umar Nurmagomedov. I think he beats Merab and fights one more time after Ramadan, which if Sean O'Malley fights Petr Yan, it would probably be the winner of that, which would be one hell of a showdown. I'm hoping that's how the bantamweight division shakes out. So I'm going with new blood in the bantamweight. In featherweight, I'm sticking with Ilia Topuria, although there's rumors of him wanting to go up to lightweight. Who knows what's going to happen there. Dana White didn't seem too stoked about that idea. In lightweight, I'm sticking with Islam Makhachev. The big one is going to be, can he beat Arman? He beats Arman. I'm not too sure who they'll throw him next. Maybe the winner of a Charles Oliveira, Max Holloway type bout. But I don't think anyone's going to dethrone him. And I don't know how long his plan is to stay with the UFC. With Khabib retiring early, you never know. He's only 33 years old. I'd expect him to be around for a little bit longer. But I'm going with Islam. In welterweight, I'm going with Shavkat Rakhmonov. I think he beats Bilal Muhammad and probably ends up fighting somebody like Leon or Jack Della or maybe even Kamaru. So I think he's going to have a new blood at welterweight, although it very well could be Bilal. He's looked like a wrecking force. Middleweight was tough for me. I just don't... DDP is a brute force. He's a stud, no doubt. I just don't see him staying. I am going to go with Khamzat Chimaev, although he is rematching Sean Strickland. Sean could very well win that fight, but I think Khamzat is the next one up, and he takes the title. Probably only fights one time, the Q3 or Q4, and gets the title. So I'm saying new blood at middleweight. Light heavyweight, I'm sticking with Alex Pereira, and heavyweight sticking with John Jones, thinking that John Jones beats Tom Aspinall. But potentially he retires. If so, it'll be Tom Aspinall. And I don't think anyone will dethrone Alex Pereira. But the Ankalaev fight will be intriguing. At strawweight, it was hard for me to find somebody that I was really stoked about. Suarez would probably be the girl, but she's barely fought since her return, so I think Zhang Weilei is going to be ahead of her. So sticking with Zhang. Flyweight, I'm going to go with Manon Fiorot. I do think she'll fight Valentina. I just feel like there's a time for a new door. You know, she already lost to Alexa. Why not Manon? She's looked like a wrecking force. And then at bantamweight, I'm going to go with Kayla Harrison. So a little bit of new blood in the women's side of things. That's who I think will be the champion at the end of 2025. Pantoja, Umar, Ilia, Islam, Shavkat, Khamzat, Alex, John Jones, Zhang Weilei, Manon Fiorot, and Kayla Harrison. Outside of MMA this weekend is the big rematch, Tyson Fury, Oleksandr Usyk. Fury been doing his media tour saying he has not talked to his wife Paris in 3 months. He's taken this serious, no retirement afterwards. I was definitely pro Tyson Fury, but Oleksandr Usyk took it to him in his last bout. There's rumors that he may want to retire after this as well. I do think if Tyson Fury finds a way to win, there will be a rematch here, because why not? I just can't pick him over Usyk with the way that last bout looked. And he is 37. So really excited to see that fight. We'll talk a little bit about it. I mean, I'm not a huge boxing fan. The big name bouts I care about. It's on the radar. Don't forget it. But I am taking Usyk in that bout. But let's talk about what happened. UFC Fight Night Tampa Bay. I went 9-3 on the picks. So overall, we're at 484 wins, 241 losses, 7 no contests and draws. Yearly 291 wins, 156 losses, 4 no contests or draws. Almost doubled up on the year. Was close. But to recap this card, I mean, this card had a lot of energy and excitement. Florida always shows out. The prelims did start slow a little bit, but when Shad Woodson came into the octagon, he got the violence kicked off, and the rest of the fights through the main card, besides the Navajo Sterling fight, were full of action, skill, and excitement. The fans had their butts in the seats early. I'm giving this a 7 out of 10. So let's kick it off in the prelims, where Felipe Lima had a unanimous decision over Miles Johns. This was one of the fights I got wrong. And this fight really was all about Felipe controlling Johns with his grappling. After a steady and measured first round by both men, maybe like 12 strikes apiece, Felipe landed more volume each round with his strikes, but really was able to cruise to a fairly easy decision due to his takedowns and top control. And Miles was never really able to get anything going. You could see he was getting a little frustrated, and Felipe was definitely closing distance and in his face while the fight was standing. Statistically, Miles only landed 35 total strikes, 31 of them significant. He did get a reversal and was 0 for 1 in takedown attempts with 1 minute and 35 seconds of control time. Felipe landed 60 total strikes, 55 of them significant. He had 2 takedowns in 5 attempts, a submission attempt, and 2 minutes and 55 seconds of control time. I am going to put on here, I want to do that post about matching up top 10 in divisions. And I want to go over the event schedule for 2025 as we have it booked next week. Well, next pod. So Felipe extends that winning streak to 14. He is 2-0 in the UFC. Miles ends his 3-fight winning streak, starts a new losing streak. He is 3-2-1 since 2022. And what's next? Well, I really didn't even notice this fight was at featherweight. I doubt with the loss that Miles plans on returning there. I'm not sure if he couldn't get a short notice opponent because of the Garbrandt dropout, so he just went and took a featherweight fight. So I'm going to say let's book Miles and Cody Garbrandt rebooked. I think that would still be fun. And for Felipe, a fight with Billy Quarantillo would make sense. Billy Q, who we'll talk about here in a bit. Then we had Sean Woodson with a round 1 knockout over Fernando Padilla. And I saw a lot of people picking Fernando in this fight, which surprised me a little bit because Sean was just too high level of a striker for Fernando, and he couldn't find a way to close distance without getting pieced up from Woodson. He's a long, lengthy guy. And Sean just landed combo after combo, got Padilla out there pretty quickly, and he clearly just showed he's levels ahead of Fernando at this day and age. You know, Sean's in the middle of his prime. Fernando's like 27. And Padilla not being able to get any grappling, he just wasn't going to have a chance in this fight. Statistically, it only took Sean 38 total and significant strikes with the knockdown, and Fernando landed 24 total and 22 of them significant. So Sean extends that winning streak to 6. He did have the draw in there, and Fernando starts a new losing streak. He's an even 2-2 in the UFC. So what would be next? I would love to see Sean take on Dan Ige, get him in the top 15. That would be a fun win-win fight. And for Padilla, how about Bill Algeo? But again, I said Sean kicked off the violence. That absolutely was the case. We had Joel Alvarez with a brutal round 1 knockout over Jakar Close. And man, did Jakar come out hot. I was like, how is he going to handle this guy, long, lengthy guy that's just violent and finishing everyone? Well, he came out swinging, closed the distance, but then after about a minute kind of gave Alvarez space, and that was a bad idea as Alvarez was able to pick Jakar apart with knees up the middles, big powerful shots, and just a lot of aggression. You know, Alvarez is just so powerful. He has ran through his opponents lately. And, you know, Jakar is no joke whatsoever, but he didn't stand a chance. Once he landed a knee, kind of got rocked, fell back, then landed another shot. He went to go sink in a choke, but from all that hits, he was already kind of knocked out, hit him one more time. So he wasn't even submitted. He was kind of knocked out while Alvarez was holding him. So they called it a knockout, called the fight. And it only took Joel 39 total strikes, 20 significant, while Jakar landed 16 total, 7 significant. He did have a takedown in 1 minute and 8 seconds of control time. So Joel extends his winning streak to 3. He is 3-1 since 2022. He does enter the very aforementioned lightweight division rankings at number 15. And Jakar ends that 4-fight winning streak and starts a new losing streak. Tough loss for him, especially in the first round. But what's next? Another fighter where there's rumors that Alvarez might look to move up to lightweight. Again, Dana didn't seem really excited about the idea. So I'm going to stick with him at lightweight for now. I'm going to say Alvarez and Jalen Turner is the fight to make. And for Jakar, he could square off with Miktabik Oralbai. That's life in the lightweight division. You lose to Joel Alvarez. Now you have to take on a very good young and up-and-coming grappler in Oralbai. But Jakar does have that grappling pedigree. You know, life is not easy in that division from fighter like 1 to 50. Moving on, we had Michael Johnson with a round 2 knockout over Otman Azaitar. Performance of the night, 50 G's for Michael Johnson. And as I said, there's never a bad Michael Johnson fight. But Otman really, hasn't been active. And he kept being patient in this fight. It seemed like he was kind of looking to load up on big shots. But in round 1, he was able to defend Johnson's takedown attempt, circle enough, although not throwing a lot, to avoid Johnson's power. But then round 2 started. Michael found the mark, got a clean highlight knockout. And it only took Michael 19 total insignificant strikes. Again, that first round was pretty uneventful. He was 0 for 1 in takedowns with the knockdown. And Otman landed 20 total strikes, 16 significant. So, Michael extends his winning streak to 2. He is 4-2 since 2022. Otman extends his losing streak to 3. He hasn't won in the UFC since September of 2020. And for that reason, I don't expect Otman to be with the UFC any longer. So I'm not going to book or, hypothetically book his next fight. For Michael Johnson, let's just give him a veteran showdown with Jim Miller. He deserves it. Jim deserves it. There's a couple veteran fights to make there, but that's the one for me. Moving on into the main card. We had a fight I got wrong. Very, very close split decision. Daniel Marcos over Adrian Yanez. And I would like to watch this back. I haven't had a chance yet. But this was a dogfight. It was very close and provided great moments for both fighters. Yanez actually, in my opinion, had more success with his boxing than Marcos and was landed more clean, powerful shots. But the grappling came for Marcos, especially on round 3. He kind of put a stamp on the fight that I think really won the fight for him. But every time Daniel would come forward and start to exchange, Adrian would just use his speed to unleash vicious combinations at Daniel. So, he'd come in with a 1-2, and Adrian would get like a 4-piece chicken nugget, come up into his face and push him back. He definitely had the speed and technical advantage, but Daniel found a way, just kind of blitzing in with a couple, going in for takedowns to avoid the boxing, and that was enough. I believe that Daniel slightly won round 1 and then 3 on the scorecards. I actually think Adrian probably should have won round 1. I'd have to watch it back. Either way, very, very close split decision. And, Adrian got taken down at the end of round 3, nothing he could do. If he could have landed some more shots in round 3, he probably could have took the fight. But statistically, Adrian landed 85 total strikes, 79 significant. He was 0 for 1 in takedown attempts, but had 1 minute and 15 seconds of control time. And Daniel landed 95 total strikes, 86 of them significant. He was 2 for 4 in takedown attempts and had 3 minutes and 23 seconds of control time. So Adrian starts a new losing streak. He moves to 2-3 since 2022. Daniel stays undefeated. He moves to 17-0. He's 5-0-1 in the UFC. I can't wait to see both of these guys back in the octagon. I want to see Adrian and Pedro Munoz. That would be a banger. And for Daniel, how about a top-ranked opponent in Montel Jackson? Moving into the light heavyweight, we had Dustin Jacoby with a round 3 knockout over Vitor Petrino. Performance of the night, 50 G's for Dustin. This was another fight I picked wrong. And this fight just was such a slow, calculated, measured fight from both men. They respected each other's power and knockout power. I was just surprised Vitor didn't try to use his grappling more. And he did have some takedown attempts, but actually go for them like he had in a lot of his UFC fights up to this point. But he was okay to stand and exchange with Dustin, which, eventually didn't pay dividends. He fought Curtis Blades, took Curtis Blades down really early. I thought we would see something like that. But Dustin, he felt Petrino's power early and was definitely trying to stay out of range. He was circling a lot and just trying to be patient, looking for his openings, where he didn't overdo it and allow Petrino to come in with that big right hand. But round 3, Petrino threw some big shots. But after defending takedowns, Dustin landed a beautiful 1-2 right down the middle and completely shut Vitor's lights off. I could not believe it. The crowd went wild, and that earned him that 50G bonus. And I mean, for 3 rounds, look at the stats here, not very heavy. Vitor only landed 40 total and significant. He was 0 for 4 in takedown attempts. You have to credit Jacoby there. Dustin landed 47 total, 45 significant with the knockdown. So Dustin ends his 2-fight losing streak. He starts a new winning streak. He's 4-4 since 2022. And Vitor extends his losing streak to 2. He is 5-2 since 2022. So what's next? Well, I'd love to see Dustin take on Ryan Spann, but Ryan Spann is moving up to heavyweight since I have made this. Let's see if I could find a quick interim fight here. Light heavyweight rankings. And while I'm pulling this up, for Vitor, I think it would be good for him to fight Mingyang Zhang. So, we got Jacoby here. Spann is taken. How about Felipe Lins? I think that would be a fun fight for him. So, down back to the flyweights, we had Manel Kape with a round 3 TKO over Bruno Silva. Beautiful display by Manel. He had a lot of words for Dana White post-finish. And, the biggest issue with Manel is, can he make weight? Is he going to not do too many antics media week and have some reason to pull out? Well, he showed up. Not only did he show up, he absolutely showed out. I thought this would be a lot better fight, but holy shit, was this like a peak performance by Manel against a very, very tough, durable, and hard-hitting Silva, especially in the flyweight division. And, Silva did have some moments. He did have some big shots land, but it was only usually one, where Manel was able to dodge a lot of his shots with that kind of Anderson Silva-like defense. And every single time Bruno would throw a big shot, Kape would close distance, push forward, and land a ton of shots. He was too quick, too precise, and then when he would finish his combinations, Bruno would try to counter, and he was able to get on defense and dodge literally everything coming at him. Over the course of the fight, you could see Bruno getting more frustrated, maybe a little more aggressive, but Manel was in total control, absolutely pieced up Silva, and Manel was able to easily avoid the takedown attempts, which was a crucial part in this fight to keep the fight standing. But this was a highlight moment for Manel, Starboy in full effect, the best performance we've seen, and we can't wait to see where he goes from here. Statistically, Manel landed 111 total strikes and significant with the knockdown, and Bruno landed 60 total, 57 significant. He was 0 for 5 in takedown attempts. So Manel now starts a new winning streak. He is 3-1 since 2022. He moves up 3 spots in the rankings to number 6. And Bruno ends that 4-fight winning streak. He does start a new losing streak and moves down 1 spot to number 13. So for me, I don't think Manel's going to get the title fight. Might as well book him against Brandon Moreno, who looked good in his return. That would be an absolutely incredible fight. And for Bruno, he could fight with Charles Johnson. Into the co-main, we had the OG potential retirement moment where Cub Swanson got a round 3 knockout over Billy Quarantillo. Fight of the night, deservingly so. 50 G's for Cub Swanson. And as you would expect, this was just an absolutely hard-fought dog fight that earned fight of the night. And you know, that was kind of expected and deserved. But in round 1, Cub was just looking flowy, man. He was very comfortable, continued to just land his powerful right hand over and over. And with his hands down low, it just seems like Billy couldn't see it coming because he had no answers for it. But Billy did turn into mix in the grappling and get a takedown, but Cub clearly won round 1. Round 2, Cub was landing, but seemed to be kind of worn down by Billy's pressure as he started getting in his face, putting the pace on, mixing in that wrestling. He had more takedowns and was successful with his own combinations because maybe Cub was wearing and was worried about the grappling. But definitely Billy was the fighter coming forward, and Cub was fighting on his back foot in round 2. And it looked to be bad body language from Cub going into a 1-1 even round 3 winner takes all round. But round 3 became a slugfest, and Billy actually looked fresher. But somehow Cub was able to just defend takedowns, find his inner being, and land a super clean 1-2 that put Billy's lights out and potentially lets Cub go out on top with an absolutely storybook ending. The way he was over Billy, the photos afterward. I mean, this was an absolutely insane image that I just don't think you could come back from. And he said in the interview he doesn't know. He did promise his wife this would be it. If it is or isn't, what a performance by Cub. Killer Cub Swanson. So statistically, Cub landed 114 total, 99 significant with the knockdown. Billy landed 108 total, 97 significant with 3 takedowns and 11 attempts. So again, that's why Cub was worn down. 8 takedowns defended. You could see the volume high by both men. And Billy landed 2 minutes and 7 seconds of control time. So Cub most likely ends his career on that 1-fight winning streak, being 2-2 since 2022. And Billy ends his 2-fight winnings. Wait, that can't be right. Let's see, Billy. I think he's on a 2-fight losing streak. Extends his losing streak to 2. That is correct. He is 2-3 though since 2022. So what's next? Again, I'm going to assume Cub retires. I'm not going to book a hypothetical opponent for him. I mean, you can't beat an ending like that. And for Billy, a fight with veteran Darren Elkins would be a fun one. Potential fight of the night. Who's the bigger dog there? Then in the main event, we had Joaquin Buckley with a round 3 TKO via doctor's stoppage over Colby Covington. And the storyline coming into this fight for me was, can Colby find a way to exhaust Buckley, get him late rounds, and have success getting takedowns over the course of those 5 rounds? Well, round 1, Buckley was doing work by avoiding the takedowns and landing some serious power shots and damage on Colby. Colby had his eye pretty swollen and dang near bloodied by round 1. And Colby continued to get beaten and battered, but found a way to get a takedown, put in some combos. But Buckley landed a combo that ended up splitting Colby's eyelid open. So usually you have cuts up against the eye. They let those open, but this is on the eyelid, so they're worried about the eyelid falling off or just not having any visibility. And he was just gushing with blood. When he did have a takedown in round 2, he was on top of Buckley, kind of smearing it on him. But round 3 was a tit-for-tat battle. Buckley always landing the bigger shots. A lot of these shots he would have finished dudes. So you got to credit Colby's durability and toughness here. But it got to the point where the ref stopped the fight, had the doctor come check it out, and they called it pretty much immediately. I wish they would have kept it going. It would have been interesting to see what would happen in rounds 4 and 5 because it was right at the end of round 3. In Vegas, Dana says they wouldn't have stopped it. I'm not a doctor. The eyelid's a unique cut. You don't see that very often. But, hey, they called it. It didn't seem like Colby wanted to fight it. Colby was acting very bothered. He kept touching it, making the blood come out. Didn't help the situation. I feel like Colby low-key kind of wanted a way out of that fight, and now he uses the doctor stoppage as an excuse. The last time it was a foot break. There's always going to be some sort of excuse. The biggest one, since the fight, Colby has said that he didn't have a training camp. He came off the couch because he's been helping Trump with his campaigning. The excuses never end. He wanted to be the heel. He's the heel. There's just not a lot to love there. But golly, Buckley is an absolute unit in this division. Statistically, Colby landed 71 total strikes, 37 of them significant. He only had 1 takedown in 8 attempts, 3 minutes and 40 seconds of control time. And Buckley landed 81 total strikes, 75 of them significant. He had a submission attempt, was 0 for 1 in takedowns, and had 1 minute and 18 seconds of control time. So Buckley extends that winning streak to 6. This man has been active. 8-2 since 2022. 10 fights in 2 years. He moves up 3 spots in the rankings to number 6. And Colby extends his losing streak to 2. He's only 1-2 since 2022. And he moves down 3 spots in the rankings to number 9. So I do think the next fight will be Buckley and Leon Edwards. And who knows what's going to be up for Colby, but if I were to take a stab at it, I'm going to go with Vicente Luque. But that's episode 79 because next week there is nothing. So the next pod will be a week before the next Apex event, previewing it. But there's 3 weeks off of MMA, back to the Apex with that new headliner that was supposed to be in Tampa Bay, Mackenzie Dern and Amanda Ribas. So enjoy the holidays. Go Steelers. I'm your host, Shane Gillette. See you next week.